to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and super excited to be here live on Facebook, live here on Twitter, Instagram, proud member of the Education Podcast Network, Voice Ed Radio Canada, wherever you are taking in your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all of our live listeners and viewers. Jump in the chat, say hello to me, and say hello certainly to our star guest tonight, J.R. Mitchell, Dr. J.R. Mitchell from Valley Stream 24, Long Island. He is the Assistant Superintendent for Business. He's also the President-elect of the Business Officials Association of New York. So excited to talk with J.R. Just got back from a mission trip to Guatemala. Got to give a shout out to our guy, Nathan Pierce, connected us. So we will meet J.R. in just a moment. And again, thanks for tuning in. I do want to thank the sponsor of today's program, IXL Learning, personalized learning there. And here is a word from the sponsor, IXL. Hey friends, Andrew Murata here, Surviving and Thriving. And I want to thank today's sponsor for the podcast, IXL. Discover the power of data-driven instruction in your school with IXL. It is the most widely used online learning and teaching platform K through 12. It gives you everything you need to maximize learning, from a comprehensive curriculum to meaningful school-wide data. And IXL's diagnostic is research proven to be a strong predictor of performance on standardized assessments, including NWEA, MAPS, STAR, iLearn, just to name a few. And the best part, everything I just mentioned is all integrated into one platform, so you can simplify your ed tech tools. Visit IXL.com to lead your school towards data-driven excellence today. The link is in the show notes. And again, I want to thank IXL for sponsoring Education, Leadership, and Beyond. All right, and we are back live. Again, thanks for IXL for sponsoring. Their link is in the show notes there. So the opening segment is about this mission trip. We're going to certainly talk to JR about it, but volunteering, giving of your time. And I had an amazing opportunity in 1999. I lived in Tuscany for a year. I lived in an Italian monastery, Augustinian priests, and I volunteered there for a year. And looking back at my life, I'm an old guy now, but looking back then, it was one of the best years of my life to be able to hit pause on working and serving others and working in another country. So amazing. So the point here is hello, my friend Chris LeGrand from Oklahoma. Thanks for tuning in, Chris. The point is, when you have an opportunity to volunteer, to go somewhere and do something that's life-changing, life-impacting, giving of your gifts and talents to others, I would tell you to do it. Looking back on that year, that was a long time ago, 24 years ago, but it was one of the best years of my life. I just brought my daughter back to the town there in Tuscany this past summer, and the work I did there was still there. So it meant a lot for that. So when you have those opportunities, if you can volunteer and you can help serve others, go for it. You get so much back in return, and certainly want to hear from J.R. Mitchell about his experience. Give a shout out to Helen Presership from Port Jervis. Thanks for tuning in, Helen. But let's bring in today's guest from Long Island Valley Stream, Dr. J.R. Mitchell. Welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
Hello, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
this is great.
Excited to be here. Excited to have you on, and so much to learn. I'm glad we got through the first technological hurdle. We made it here in one piece.
You did. Yes, certainly. This is such a great opportunity. I'm really excited. Thank you again for having me on.
Yeah, and a shout out to our friend Nathan Pierce connecting us.
Yes.
Your roommate in Guatemala, is that correct?
Yes, he was my roommate.
God bless you. You need a vacation after that.
I wonder if he's listed right now.
Oh, I know he's listening, probably taking pictures. Nathan is with LifeTouch, the photo company. But this is Dr. J.R. Mitchell, friends, the Assistant Superintendent for Business, Valley Stream, New York, Union Free School District 24. You've been there 9 years, J.R. How are things going
Yes.
for you this year?
It's going great. One of the things for us business officials, we all sort of fall in the same bucket of what to expect, with New York and the state and the funding, and just general trends. So for us, we have a new superintendent. So we're laying the plan to now go off what we call the steroids, right? Which were the additional funding, which I'm sure you're aware of, the federal funding we've had the past few years after COVID. So, um, us is just being able to sustain a lot of the programs, initiatives, and staffing, and we're being able to do that. And so, we're looking forward to even expanding further. So, it's always a challenge, but it's definitely great. It's my passion, it's what I love to do. So,
You're definitely a
enjoying it.
numbers guy. We'll get into your background a little
Oh,
bit.
for certain.
But
Yes.
JR, leadership, there's a lot of different categories and characteristics, but you
Hmm.
need a certain skill set for that assistant superintendent for business. What are some of the skills different than you need
Yes.
as a principal or a superintendent? What are some things that you do different in your role?
Sure. Great question. One of the first things that I'd say about me, now I know a lot of my peers in the same category as well. We've all had personality tests done as administrators. But when you go beyond that, you look at the numbers, it's your attention to detail because numbers don't lie. And numbers at the same time, they have to be the truth, right? They have to not be wrong, they have to be accurate. And so with that, the paying attention to detail sounds like a coined phrase, but it's more to it than just saying, oh yeah, this is the right number, look on the paper. It's actually testing the numbers, matching numbers, doing your averages, and so not all folks are mathematically inclined, and most folks can do the basic math. But when you have to really look at both sides of the balance sheet, that's key. It's very critical actually for forecasting. And I would say with that is being prepared at all times. We're fiduciaries. We represent district taxpayers' dollars, and the constituencies, our board members, rely on us and the superintendent to make sure we have the information at all times. So I think being prepared for questions. I go to meetings with all sources of information and access so that I can provide it. So I think that, and then of course dealing with a lot of different individuals, but not in a corporate fashion. Like I've had corporate fashion before, but this is more so dealing with folks, civil service, and it's a different mentality. It's not a negative mentality. Well, I want to just clarify what it is just being able to communicate, see their needs, seeing what pleasures that they enjoy, things that motivate them in a job because it's different. Corporate is more about, hey, this is a bottom line. We don't necessarily have a bottom line. We want to be able to grow the district and be efficient, right? But we don't have this corporate mentality of like, hey, let's sell, let's continue to sell as much as we can and bring shareholders higher value. So I think that's a distinction. And so having that flexibility, being able to learn quickly and adjust and pivot, those are all of the traits. And a lot of these traits our colleagues have, but I think it's more ingrained with the business official.
Yeah, for sure. JR, I sent out a memo to 5,000 people and there was a spelling error in it this week. It just happened, right? And you get the eraser out and people forgive me. You miss a comma, you make a mistake, it's a little different.
Oh,
Tell
absolutely.
tell me about that focus when you're working. I mean, do you put the blinders
Mhm.
on like this? You turn all the music on? Like
I
how
like that.
how do you create that focus to really, as you said, get the details? Talk to me about focusing
Yes.
on the job.
Yes, focus is critical and huge and plays a large part in us dissecting the numbers and providing the budget. Because, like you said, a comma off can really throw things out. And you're talking about taxpayer dollars. So for me, I'm a big '80s guy. I zone out and I'll just play my music in my office, and I do it at times where the office folks aren't there. So after 4 o'clock, the office pretty much clears out. I'm able to really focus. And I do different methods to make sure that I am checking the accuracy of the numbers, that I'm backing up things that I do on a spreadsheet and I do in a financial management system just to ensure the numbers are on target. So the focus, again, is huge, plays a large part, but I think everyone, may do it differently. I just able to just have multiple screens up, work different systems, and just continuously double check, work through the numbers, and just make sure it's right, and then you do want to have folks proofread afterwards. So after you do it, and you're confident in those numbers, you have, your trusted colleagues and staff go through it. But that's really how I operate.
And if we're looking at this school year like a game, like a, let's say a basketball game with four
Hmm.
quarters, in
Mm.
terms of the budget season, we're in the fourth quarter, right? I mean, it's coming up here in May, right?
Just about. Yeah, I wouldn't say because that is the finish line, the third Tuesday in May, right? That big day, folks come out and vote. But I'd say we're still in the third quarter,
Third
only
quarter.
because we have to really gather what's on the other side of the balance sheet. What is our revenue? And a large part of the revenue for some districts, not all, some districts don't rely too much on state, but certain districts like mine has a good chunk of percentage coming from state. We need to make sure we know what they agreed upon. And that typically doesn't come, they're supposed to come April 1st and you're in a budget. It didn't happen last year. It may or may not happen this year, but sometime typically in April, we'll get that number. And the thing is, the timing in which we present our budget, we have to be somewhat conservative, but same time, not too much to kind of balance out what's necessary and to keep our taxpayers, tax cap low. So I think that this is the third quarter only because we have a few more. We haven't really hit that final stride. Like I can tell you real quick, we have to do a property tax report card. We have to do our budget brochures. Get that to the presses, make sure that looks right, right, and then a budget notice on top of a budget hearing after this is all adopted. So I think once it's adopted, then we get to that fourth quarter and we get to all the things I just mentioned.
Lots to it, lot goes into it. And speaking of a lot, there's a lot of people watching live. Jump in the chat, say hello, let us know where you're coming from. I know there's a lot of friends and family close by, but when you're talking numbers, people want to certainly hear about it. And JR, you've been involved with numbers your whole life, teaching math, and then you went into
Mhm.
private banking and investing for a period of time. What
Yes.
brought you back to education?
Well, I got to tell you a couple things. One was the fact that we had the huge Armageddon at '09 when the financial markets crippled, when you had Lehman Brothers, you had Bear Stearns, and the bailouts. So, I survived that, must say, but it was never the same, and still not the same to this day. So after that, you had a lot more, not necessarily competition, but just different ways in which you're dealing with private investors and their money. The risk appetite had changed, the disclosure went up so much. So, not really hone on that, but that was one aspect where, it's a different lifestyle, right? Um, Schools, um, is a little more relaxed. It's a little more balanced, even keel. And it's not the dog eat dog mentality. Matter of fact, I had a podcast not too long ago. We talked about how all of our colleagues in other districts, we're actually not competitors. We actually collaborate with one another, which is a great feeling. And then, at the same time, it just, to me, I had already been a teacher many years ago, but knew I had wanted more at the classroom, left that, went into finance. So talking to some folks, it just made sense that I marry those two skill sets, right? So being part of education, understanding the aspect, the needs and wants, and then having the capacity, right, to manage and pretty much look at resources where we could be the support and foundation for a school district. That's where I got into the role of SBO. And so that's where I made my transition back 2012.
And you went, so the teacher, you had not held a different administrative job. You went from the teaching level, banking, and right into the assistant superintendent.
Yes, well, I was very fortunate. So I I did an internship um, in my neighborhood, and with that, I was able to go Asbo, New York, pretty much, allowed me to go to the conferences. And being in the big networker I am, I built some great relationships. Met this one lady. This woman, had told me, hey, you know what? I may have something coming down the line. She liked, I guess my at the time, when you're younger and you come into an industry like this, you're hungry and you have that mindset. You want to learn, you want to grow. And a few months later, hired me. She grew me. Was able to really learn a lot from her, and then able to come back into Long Island because at that point I had just gotten my certification. Took about a year. I did it on Saturdays. That's how I was able to transition. And so then moved into Valley Stream where I am now for the past 9 years.
Wow. What's something that you know now that you wish you knew then when you started out?
Hmm. Ah, wow. That's really something different there. I can say that if I had known about this industry and the fact that it has such flexibility, it has a great, at least I feel a good work-life balance, and you're providing so much positively toward your school district. Um, if I had known that, it's plain as day. I would have gone to this industry straight out of college.
Mm,
But knowing a lot of peers, even like myself, having journeyed and ventured in different professions and having a host of work experiences, um, that also lended to who we are now and how we're able to manage these jobs. So I don't think necessarily that, hey, coming out because there's only a handful of folks that I even know who have ever done that, but just saying if I knew that this was a rewarding career as what I've encountered, I probably would have just done it a lot sooner.
yeah. Yeah. Well, we learn when we get a little older.
Yeah,
We get a lot
hindsight's
smarter,
2020.
right?
That's the uh, that's the old saying. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you heard the opening statement there about your trip, JR. Let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
You had an amazing experience a couple months ago. Again, shout
Hmm.
out to our friend Nathan Pierce. But you went on the missing trip with LifeTouch
Yes.
to Guatemala. Tell me, start to finish. Number one, how did you get in? How did you get
Okay.
picked? How did you land there?
Yes. So when I joined ASBO International about 2.5 years ago, went to the conference and then met some folks there, heard from two women that they're going on this. I said, wow, okay, I didn't know what it was about. They went in January of 23. I had them on my podcast. And I tell you, Andrew, we all were crying on the episode. It was
Mm,
so, I mean, emotional what they encounter, what they experience. I said to myself, wow, this is amazing. They said this is a life-changing event. And so I said to myself, okay, I want to just go ahead and apply for it, next year. So I applied for it last summer, and fortunately, I got the call to go. And only
wow.
two ASWA the national representatives go. So I was able to go with another gentleman from who I made a good association with as well, from Chicago area in Illinois. I mean, he and I really connected, and I think that this is such an amazing experience beyond just going, but just what you get out of it and what you give is just deep, absolutely profound.
Wow. So you knew this gentleman when you got there? Like, who did you know? And did you all go on the same flight? What? Tell me about getting
Okay,
there,
sure, yeah,
and then when
logistics.
you got
Okay,
there. Yeah.
yes, yes. So once, actually, you want it from soup to nuts. So once we were selected, we had three different Zoom meetings
Oh wow.
with the host. And so first they allayed the trip, what it entail, why we go, past trips, things like that. The next one was more so like, here's more what we're doing. Are you concerned about safety, things like that, food, how we take care of this, and your restrictions. And then the third one was kind of a wrap up. Um, After that occurred, December, they sent us a package kit for us to go, so we prepared. January, we fly to Houston, all to Houston on the first day. So this allows us to all be able to go out to Guatemala at once, and also allows us to connect. And so there were some team building exercises, some icebreakers that evening in the hotel. And so we were able then to really assimilate, forge some relationships early on, and really gain a sense of camaraderie. After that, early morning, we're out. We go for the next 7 days. We're in Guatemala. And so the way we did it, I've never done it before. It's called bulk or group boarding. We went to a separate part of the airport, and they all just, you know, put us in right away, our luggage, everything like that, and then we just wound up going through checkpoints. So it was great.
Wow.
We get out there, two vans for us, waiting, and we go to the hotel where we're staying. And I mean, it was different, but that was great. And there's a lot out there that LifeTouch, who sponsored it, who work with Hug It Forward, they have images and videos. They're doing a lot of press. There's media. I was in media with the patch. I'm being more media. I've done, podcast episodes, post about it. So that's really how it came about.
Wow. Wow. And then you bump into this Nathan Pierce.
Well, actually, I met Nathan before. Not
Okay.
to cut you off there. I met him at the ASBO conference the past 2 years. He's a representative. They're a major partner with ASBO National, and so I met him in Oregon in the fall of 22, and I met him in Maryland at the conference, the Gaylord, last fall. So
Okay.
we talked, and then when we found out, actually, we knew in Maryland that we were going to be going. I didn't know we were going to be roommates, though. It's another story,
Wow.
right? But he was fine. But I got it. He actually had him on my show too. But at the end of the day, he's a good guy. Way he connected, personable, and that's why he's a great sales marketer. You can't say anything about him. He knows his stuff and knows his people, and so much like me, we clicked, and so that continued on. So when we found out we were roommates. Hey, we had a good system. It was great.
And so overall, when you were done, it was a building you built a school. What
Eco
was the
school, yes.
built a school? Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Long
Wow.
story short, it's a bottle school, they call it. Supposedly sustained for 100 years. It's
Wow.
German engineered. So you have the walls plastered on the outer portion, um, brick here and there, blocks. But then um, think of like insulation. Okay. What we have is insulation. They use is bottle caps. So the bottle cap, so the bottles actually take their waste, so inorganic waste. So they stuff each of these bottles, and then we have to line them up on this. It's almost like a 10. It's not a fence, but it's like a 10 facade, and we line them up, we string them up, we tighten them up, and then that's why they call it the bottle. So that's pretty much. Um, it took us several days to do that, but that was the main mission. But the mission was so much more than that. I don't know if you want me to go into a little bit more of that or not, but I can just tell you that we were immersed in the culture. And what I mean by that is we were able to talk to folks that came there every day on our lunch and talk about, their plight, their lives, their families. We were able then to walk through the community, go inside homes. We were able to go in the basement one time. A lady, that's where she makes tortillas. Another woman, it was a seamstress. She was doing loom. I mean, it was amazing. And just the whole time the kids are around us, bouncing around. We met the teacher. It was great. It's phenomenal.
Wow. Well, fantastic. What a great opportunity, and so happy that you got to be selected and experience like that. And
Oh
when you
yeah.
have an opportunity to volunteer, it is life changing. So good for you, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Andrew.
Another passion of yours, Jr. You run a podcast too,
Hmm.
SBO Perspectives. Tell me about starting that podcast and the
Okay.
work you're doing with that podcast.
Okay. So everybody remembers the pandemic, right? Maybe not like it was yesterday, but
Hmm.
so at the end of 2020, we were still um, we were getting back. We were isolated for quite some time. And we weren't really able to get back out there. There were masks, there were a lot of restrictions, and I have so many friends and colleagues across New York State. And at the time, I miss those connections, right? I miss being able to go to even more so than a conference, just a local chapter meeting. So I started researching in November what's it take to build a podcast. I found that app that kind of did it all in one. I got a microphone off Amazon, and so since I had two phones, you're gonna laugh at this. The old school way I did it was I call on my work phone, put it on speaker, and then I had the mic connected directly to my other phone, and it would go to I think can't remember the name of the app, starts with the S. It would go right there. I upload it, and it was great because then I'm able to talk to my friends, connect. I said, well, you know what? At the same time, there's a lot of stuff going on too, right? That's current events. It's happening. Also, what about leadership? Or what about human resources? Just different aspects of school business. I said, well, let me develop a topic list. So for the first quarter of 2021, every week, I had somebody on about a different topic, and I mixed it in. And I had some vendors come in, and I said, let me talk to bus drivers, or let me talk to food directors, let me talk to
Ah,
superintendents, let me talk to politicians, and just expand it. And so at that point, though, I felt like I wanted to go even further and expand it. So one of my fellow colleagues, John, on the board of New York ASBO, right? Um, he had come onto the show, and he listened, man. Um, I love to come on and and be co-host. And I was like, wow, he wants to do. It. I said, and he's a good tech person. So we talked about it. I said, yeah, sure, why not? So later on that summer, he became my co-host, and then we just took off. We pretty much just started really reaching out to a lot of folks. The following year. Um, it got so much notoriety that then we were reaching out with Aswan National folks. I think the first kickoff was when I spoke to somebody in the UK and realized, wow, this
wow.
is this is my counterpart, my peer out there. Here's how you do it, and just it just went from there. Then I talked to somebody in Illinois, and then it just kept going. I talked to somebody who was running for the Aswan National Board, and I said, wow, okay. And then that's when Azure National caught wind of us, picked this up as the official podcast for a little bit for about a year and a half. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I mean, well, it's changed at this juncture, but I mean, that was the experience of how we transcended upward to just grow. And just now, when I tell you that last year we spoke to folks in 23 states. Yeah, 23 states. And and New Zealand, and of course one of the states is Alaska and Canada as well. So we've been really doing a lot. And this year, in the reboot, my new host, she's actually from the West Coast, and it's a
Okay.
great perspective. She's from
Yeah.
Oregon, and so I mean it's a good mix, great synergy, and so we're keeping it moving each week. So SEO perspectives is for school business officials and really the professional development of it, but more so than that, just a connection and hearing the stories. They really go a long way for us.
Well, check out his podcast again, SBO Perspectives, and you can find it on iTunes and Spotify and all that, JR.
Yes, all
Okay.
all the major platforms. Yes, correct.
SBO Perspectives. Well, that's a passion of yours. And right now, I love how you wrote this. I'm uber focused on personal growth in all facets. You're continuing to look to grow and get
Yes.
better. Tell me, JR, how does somebody, you got a busy family, three children, you're married, you're working
hmm
in a big district in Long Island. How do you continue to sharpen your saw and make the time to do it?
Well, I think you compartmentalize it, right? So you think about it. Well, you have X amount of hours in a day. You map out your schedule. I have a shared calendar with the missus to make sure I don't miss anything with the kids. That's important, right? And I think that helps me with the work schedule. And then you carve out that time where, okay, here could be downtime because I'm also, very much I work out a lot, um, enthusiast, with fitness. It's just a matter of finding that balance. And so, like right now, I'm finishing up Harvard Business School Online, a class that they have, with the College of Education, and that's something that you just set time. Like each year, Andrew, I set my goals beginning of the year, and I have a podcast about this where this is what I want to do. Like this year, I'm looking to try to do a TED talk to continue to grow. And I think that
Mm.
a lot of things, if you put in your mindset manifesting it, it comes to fruition. And so that's why, yeah, I write down my goals. And that's why, I continue to check in and make certain that, hey, these are the targets I need to reach to get further. And then, this year, planning to, in June, I'll be president of the association, planning, the agenda there. And what's forthcoming is also exciting.
Well, very cool, and I wish you good luck. And JR, I'll share. I got a call from left field. Someone dropped out of a TED Talk here in Binghamton. So I'm doing my first one next weekend in Binghamton, a TED Talk.
Wow. That's my
Yeah,
alma mater, by the way, at Binghamton University. So
might
that's
have to
great.
come up there, man. Check it out next
All
Saturday.
right. We'll talk offline. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But
Good
that's
stuff.
exciting. Yeah. And again, you're a busy guy, but I love the concept of compartmentalizing it and making it a priority and then just getting it done.
Yes, you have to. Yeah.
Awesome. Our friend Nathan tuned in here. Nathan, tell me in
Yeah,
the
I just got a
chat
text from him
something
too.
you learned about JR on the trip. Something here. Throw it in the chat for us, Nathan.
Uh-oh.
And if you're watching live,
Oh boy.
throw a question in there as well for JR or myself. JR, you heard also the sponsor of the show is IXL, and you said you've had a good experience as an educator, and I
Mhm.
know it's huge with the math. What's been your experience using IXL in the schools?
So I work with the other administrators, for instance, our assistant superintendent for curriculum, as far as helping to map out, helping to fund, and also talking about, you know, well, what's our return of income, right? Because if we invest in something, um, how is it like coming back to us, for our students? So I think that the abilities that it has for capturing the state standards, or whatever you need with next gen, the ability for skills that um, what I could say in your textbooks, you want to match up. They have like I think over 80 textbooks or so they can match with to, and the fact that the assessments you could pretty much integrate it for teachers. It's a very easy platform, and I know about it more so too with my children in their school because these are like the extra practice and stuff that the teachers talk about for them as well. So it's a very positive experience. And I would promote it to the fullest because we've been utilizing it for some years now. It's a great experience.
Home run, and that's been ours as well. And I like you, I see my own kids doing it as well.
Hmm.
JR, what was something that you wanted to talk about here on the podcast that I did not bring up to you?
Certainly. So you're probably gonna shake your head on this one, but I know that I still have time that where I also do consulting under Zeal Consulting.
Mm.
Zeal Consulting's managed, owned by Jeff Wendes. And we actually did a nice project out in Virginia. We did a audit for a school, and not an audit from financially. They had specific questions related to their salaries and being competitive. So we dissected, we did analysis of, what the histories have been like, neighboring districts, their funding sources, and things that pretty much were moving the dial for them and just to kind of maybe make recommendations so they could tailor themselves to maximize and be more efficient and thus maybe offer higher salaries and be more competitive and not necessarily lose and have high turnover. So that was a great experience. We have another one, and I think that the reason why I say people don't know this because obviously I have a full-time job doing a podcast, as well as I'm on a couple boards and very active Aswell, New York, as well as Aswell International. I had a committee there, and so still finding the time, to balance that with family and other things is major. And I think that it's important. I wanted to mention that because I think that as educators too, you want to do all you can, but you have to also um, not just maximizing your efforts to help others and grow school districts, but to be able to say, okay, you know, where might I go? Like my thing is future looking. Where might I go down the line? I'm learning this now about consulting, but perhaps, my goal, maybe eventually one day, superintendency, whatever have you, different levels. But then when you get past all that, what will you do? Some folks do interim here and there, but I think that learning this facet of just consulting is a big thing.
That's incredible. Zeal Consulting. So how can people find that? Is there a website? How can they reach out to you about that?
Yeah, zeal-ed.com. It's online. You just put it in Google. There are about a dozen different areas of focus, from security to financial management to coaching, services that are provided. And what the beauty of it is that uh, there are I think over 60 different folks all across the country, like myself, superintendents, business officials, principals, administrators who work on different projects. So it's not just me, and it's just project can come and go, and whatever pops up. So the opportunities are there to really help, like I said, other districts, and also learn. I always learn going to something like this. When we did this for the first time, it was like, well, okay, now we can see how to build it for the next time, and so forth and so on. So this is great.
Incredible. JR, you're bringing a ton of skills here. You're doing a lot of things. You're really socially connected.
Thanks.
What
Hmm.
would you say, JR, for maybe someone who's a little more introverted or maybe not, doesn't have the skills? What would you say are some of the best relationship building techniques that you have? Because clearly you're building relationships everywhere you go.
Certainly, it's no secret. I have no problem sharing. I can say that I learned this from my Merrill Lynch days. Pretty much just about knowing your audience before you go and doing your homework. And then from that, well, how do you build up into conversations, right? A lot of times you can be standing by folks. You overhear something and then you find a commonality. I have a great knack at doing that. But even beyond that, you sometimes when you target and pinpoint who you want to talk to, so you have to know your elevator pitch. You have to study. You have to, with Merrill Lynch, we looked in the mirror, we practiced it,
Mm.
and we knew it the back of our hands. So, with that, I'd say, two, it's very important you look folks in the eye, you shake hands. I know there's a period of time you couldn't do that, but you're firm. If your palms are sweaty, go in the bathroom and wash your hands and dry them. No, dry them, because this way your palm, because a
Yeah.
clammy hand, seriously, with us,
Yes. Yeah.
is a bad impression. And you'll
Yes.
hear later on what my main number mantra is. So that, and the fact that um, sometimes, honestly, the business cards are fine, but you want to maybe do QR. It's a little bit faster. It's easier. But I write down names sometimes. People don't realize that it's powerful too. That later on, it doesn't look that good if you don't know the person's name. But yeah, great conversation. I just put my phone, notepad. I write the name down, and then later on, if it's not a place where it has names on it, then this way I can address them by the name, and it's more of a connection. So those are some of the few things that really help build your networking,
I
and
love it.
get that comfort zone too, for sure.
Yeah. Great advice there. Again, throw a question in the chat. Nathan loved your music on the trip, JR. So you got some
Oh boy,
old school
I get a lot
music.
about the music all the
There you
time.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
Well,
go.
like I said, I mentioned 80s, so that is the number one genre. I mean, my playlist is tremendous. I have it on Spotify, and so, but really, I take requests. It wasn't me maximizing, so I got a bunch of requests, and then I called the Guatemalan playlist, and and we had how it's on Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we changed the words. Sweet Home Guatemala. Oh man, we had some good time singing in there. You know, I can't think of some of the other songs right now because I kind of on the spot, but I could tell you that it was a great time, and we just loved it, and that charges up. That's the energy that I think that I look forward to each morning getting up. You have to drive about 25 minutes to get to the school from the hotel, and so just getting that positive flow going, the juices and singing it. I'm big on karaoke. People know this. I brought karaoke to Saratoga for school business officials. So
Sweet
they were
home
passionate about it.
Guatemala, baby.
That's
Nice.
right. Yep.
Very
Yep.
cool. Well, I love that. It brings a spirit, it brings a commonality, as you
Oh,
said.
yes.
I
Yes.
love it.
100%.
Fantastic. JR, let's get to rapid fire here. These are going to be quick questions, but one more before
Okay.
we go. My
Sure.
mantra is surviving and thriving. We're all working towards, being the best we can be. Take
Hmm.
out the word and I got a blank there. Surviving, blank, thriving. What are you putting in there that is that
Mm.
thing that helps you go from surviving to thriving?
Okay. Surviving, blank, thriving. Ooh. Surviving, analyzing, thriving.
Mm.
Yeah.
Give me a little more on that. Analyzing.
Okay.
Why? Why analyzing?
So there's two sides, right? Surviving, you might say, well, oh, I'm just trying to just survive. I'm trying to stay head above water, keep afloat. And thrive like, yeah, I'm on a speedboat. I'm cruising right now. So um, in order to go from surviving to thriving, you have to analyze. Analyze what you're doing. Why do you feel like you're surviving? Because you don't necessarily have to have that mindset. It's how you approach, how you look at it. Surviving may mean that you're just putting the tools necessary to put in place for you to actually thrive. And I think if you analyze that carefully, you can see how to actually change your mentality from surviving to thriving.
Great answer there, my friend. Great answer.
Thank you.
They are
Thanks, Andrew. This is
uh,
fun.
my friend
Yeah.
Helen from Port Jervis. She's a wonderful mom, big supporter of
Okay.
Port
Oh,
Jervis.
awesome.
She put a question in
Yes.
there. I don't know. Can you see it, Jr.? You want to read that for her?
Um.
Oh, we lost him. He hit the button. How to encourage young people to volunteer and get the courage to get out there in the safe zone and pay it forward. We lost JR. Hopefully, he'll be back here in a moment. Helen, I think we have to continue to talk about it. I think we have to continue to show, just like JR did on that trip, show when they did do it, right? I've gone into a lot of classes at Port Jervis to talk about my time volunteering with the church there. And here's JR back to us. He must have hit the
Yeah,
wrong
I
button
did
there.
hit the wrong button. I
Yeah.
can't see it. I think I have to log in.
No, don't worry.
Uh.
I got it. I got it for you. Her
Okay. I
question here
apologize.
says, how do we encourage young people to volunteer and get the courage to get out there in the safe zone, out of their safe zone to pay it
Mhm.
forward in a different community? So basically,
Sure.
how do we encourage young people to get out there and volunteer? How do we do it?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, but I could tell you straightforward. And Helen, thanks for putting that in there. I appreciate that. You have to speak their language. And what I mean by speak their language is what's the number one thing I see all the time? Kids, TikTok, YouTube. So I think if you're able to find ways to maybe pair up, have a big brother, big sister kind of thing, and then showcase that on their platform, social media, they can see the positivity behind it and then say, well, I want to be part of this. Right. And I think that the more you do that, the more infuses it becomes a domino effect, it becomes so infectious. And I think you want something like that to go viral really online because then children will see, well, here's the importance. And I think the old school way might have been, hey, listen, let's meet up, in the church basement. Let's have a speech or talk. Somebody come by the school. But I think that if you immerse them and show them more than just that, you can do some of that too. That goes a long way. Some of those talks to somebody that they can relate to. There's some great speakers out there. However, I do believe that if you can showcase what a great feeling, the smiles and the spirit behind this, You can't hide that, and they'll see
Yeah.
it, and they'll want to
Yeah.
be part of it.
Absolutely. Great question and a great answer. JR, let's get to rapid fire.
Oh,
Quick,
I'm excited
quick
about this.
questions. It's like
Okay,
being in traffic on a Friday in Long Island. All
you
right.
got
Yeah.
to, yeah,
Trying to get in the HOV lane to get on the LIE.
you know about that, right?
Let,
Okay.
let's keep it moving. Here we go. First one. Last book you read.
Oh yeah, The Art of the Impossible by Stephen Kotler.
Last movie you saw.
Dumb Money. I saw it on the plane coming back from San Diego a few weeks ago.
Oh, the Soups Con. You were out of the Soups conference?
There was one, no, one we had as one national the week before. Yep.
Okay. Last concert you went to?
Usher, Vegas in November.
For Mr. Super Bowl himself?
Yeah, it was the weekend before the last weekend too. It was great. Went out there and it was awesome. Really enjoyed it.
He got some
Yeah.
80s for you there. Your favorite dish?
It's a seafood dish. Probably lobster.
Nice.
Yeah,
Favorite place
lobster.
to travel?
Well, I say I'm so used to traveling each year. Uh, I like California. I like California the most. Yeah, it's the best. Honestly, I wish
This
I lived there.
this summer I will fill in the blank.
uh, I will work on my six pack a lot more. Yeah, I'm almost there.
Not
As you get
drinking a
older,
six
it's harder.
pack, but the other six pack.
Yes. Yeah. The abdomen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Go ahead. I interrupted you. The older we get,
No, it's hard to maintain, and I think
yeah.
that diet plays a lot into that. But I want to, as I approach soon a milestone birthday pretty soon, I want to be able to say, look, I want to turn back the clock, 25 years, 30 years, and say this is it. So that's my goal.
That milestone birthday of 40.
Let's just move on a little bit more.
He's a numbers guy. The numbers don't
Yeah,
lie.
there you go.
What's a pet peeve of yours? You talked about a lot of your passions this evening. What's a pet peeve of yours?
Uh, I guess, well, if you're working out and folks don't really clean up the equipment, or you see folks maybe they don't wash their hands. I don't know. That's something that I'm really part of sanitary. I think it's important that we should be responsible, right, to not spread germs.
A recent victory for you.
Um, damn, this is rapid fire too. Recent victory. Um, gosh. Um, I guess it's playing my son in basketball. I still ain't able to beat him, so that's a recent victory.
You're holding on for a few more. At
Yeah.
8 a.m. on Saturday morning, I feel fill in the blank.
Oh, I feel energized. The weekend, I'm not want to lay in the bed. I'm out and about. I'm doing household stuff, outdoor stuff, or hitting the gym. So I'm really energized. I like the weekend.
Me, I'm right with you on that. Best takeaway from this show for our guests.
The best takeaway is really, um, I think something I said earlier. Even when I told Helen, but I think when you hit the horn about surviving versus thriving, how to make that transition to be thriving. I think that that's key. Analyze what you're doing right now. You know, how you surviving, why you surviving, and then just push it to the other side.
Favorite Long Island beach.
I have to say, Fire Island is awesome. I mean, there's so many, in Long Island, but yeah, Fire Island definitely number one.
Long Island is fill in the blank.
Long Island is Strong Island every day.
Long Island traffic hack.
Oh, okay, yeah, this is good. I like this. I like to give hacks, right?
Okay, all right.
So I can tell you that um, when I travel, I always look at both Google Maps, right? The one on your phone, the normal one you see every day, and Waze. Now, the reason why I say that is that you can't use one, and I always favor Google Maps, but I look to compare and see any distinction on time, because if they have close to the right time, that's what I'm going for, depending on the route. And then what you want to do is on that route, let's say it's a lot of street stuff like that, make an make a turn or two different, and you can see that you can make the path because everybody else is following the waves in Google too. So you kind of
Mm.
want to skip it. And that you believe it or not, you'll skip some stuff and your time will go down when you do that. So that's my hack.
Analyzing. He's always analyzing the numbers. I
That's
love
right.
it.
Time is of essence. I'm critical. I want to be on time for everything.
I mean, that's a pretty deep statement too, though, because everybody else is doing it, and you got to be okay with taking a different path sometimes. Incredible.
Correct.
Best investing or financial tip?
Sure. So two things. First is that when I worked at Merrill, we looked at what's called technical analysis as well as what obviously news coming out, quarterly news hits, job reports, um, earnings reports. Every data for different companies, and the key to it is that, yeah, they may have good news, and it's also market influence because the market's doing well. Sometimes the Dow stocks are going to all be in the bunch doing well, um, but you want to be able to say what's the technical analysis. Technical analysis will let you know if something's about to break out or if it's going in the bear market territory. So look on both sides. Don't just look at and news. Find some news sources that aren't, listen, Kramer, Mad Money Knows shows are great, but you getting stuff from there, it's too late. People already invested in that. You have the big endowments, you have the big funds, and so you want to get stuff that is behind the scenes, and get multiple sources to match up something you might want to invest in.
Just like your traffic maps.
And be patient as well. Correct. Patience is
Mm.
also key, and don't go on your emotion alone because I can tell you that you feel like, oh, but if you really follow technical analysis and the fundamental research behind it, through the reports, you'll be fine.
Here we go. These are, you got to pick one. All right. I'm going to
Okay,
give you a couple
let's
choices,
go.
either or. You ready?
Ready? Let's go.
Cheeseburger, taco, empanada.
Taco,
Long walk or gym workout.
gym workout all day.
Beach, pool, or lake.
Pull. It's
Hmm,
cleaner. Yeah,
nice. He's
staying near
very
the beach.
sanitary. Very sanitary. Your New York sports team.
All right, I gotta tell you, I gotta go. Jets, Rangers, Knicks, and Yankees.
Wow,
Yankees my number one.
you're a Jets fan? God,
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
I'm supposed to be.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
supposed to be the other side. If you're Jets, supposed to be Mets, but that's the only one out the mix because Rangers, Yankees, makes it all on that other side. But Jets, yeah, I know.
You're not afraid to step out of the line. That's okay.
That's right.
JR stands for.
So my first name was Jack, but I won't give away the R. I'll keep that in suspense. But it is my middle name initial. So JR, those are my initials. I'll keep it at that.
Book or audio book?
Audiobook, definitely.
Series or movie?
Movie,
Winter or summer?
summer.
Cash or credit?
What about debit? But nah, I
Mm.
like credit because you could always pay if you have the means, pay it off right away, but you get your points. You need your points.
Chase Sapphire card. I'm racking them up. Morning or night?
Um, I do love the morning, but you know what? The night is good too. I'm going with night.
Cookie or donut?
Oh, donut.
Mm. Coffee or tea?
I'm a tea guy. I
Surviving
do
or
coffee too.
thriving?
Thriving, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, Long Island strong. This is
Yes.
Dr. J.R. Mitchell, friends. We went into overtime. J.R., I'm trying to keep it
Sorry
at
about
40
that.
minutes,
Thank you.
and
Oh,
we're
but
at
it's okay.
55 minutes. Unbelievable.
We had fun.
But you were
Yes.
dropping a lot of knowledge and
Thank
people
you.
in the chat. It
Appreciate it.
was great. So I'm a quote guy,
Okay.
J.R. You want to end this with a quote here?
Yeah. You never have a second chance to make your first impression. So remember that in everything you do, because that's my number one mantra. Wherever I go, board meetings are great. Most folks don't do that, but you never know who might be a new person at night. And new places. I do a lot of networking. that impression is critical. So that's what I'll give you guys.
Excellent ending there. JR, if people want to get in touch with you, again, you gave the name of the consulting, Zeal Consulting, but what's the best way people could get in touch with you? And again, find your podcast also.
Oh yeah. So well, SBOperspectives.com, right? That's the website. Over 170 episodes are on there in the library as well. You can listen back to anything going back to June 21, the beginning of the year. And I mean, you kept me in my school district. School business stuff. I'm on the website for my school district, Valishing 24. And then last but not least, my LinkedIn. I have over 3,000 connections on there. So definitely hit me there. And SPO Perspectives, we have a page there as well. So feel free to inbox me on that. A couple social media platforms, wherever is your preference, wherever you like to reach out to me on. I'm definitely open to have a conversation about anything.
He's got a nice picture on LinkedIn as well. We used it for the show.
You care about that picture, right? Okay, that's okay.
This is Dr.
Love it.
J.R. Mitchell, everyone. Again, Valley Stream, Long Island. What a great show. I do want to thank again our sponsor for the show, IXL Learning. Their information's in the chat. And JR said he's an audiobook guy. It is March. That means it's March Madness.
March
Little
Madness,
commercial
baby.
here.
Yeah.
My book is not only in print, but it's also on Audible, read by the author, Tales from the Hardwood, March Madness. Check it out.
Ooh, okay.
JR, we are going to sign off on the podcast. I appreciate
Yes.
you. If I
Thanks,
could help
Andrew.
you in any way, friends, at Andrew Murata 21 on Twitter. JR, I know we connected on Twitter. You want to drop your Twitter also?
At JR Mitch
On Twitter or X, as they call it. All right. JR, you stay on the line, my friend. We're going to sign off. Thanks for everybody who tuned in here. This was a great show. And JR, I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you.
All right. Stay on the line. Here we go.